and you are listening to the Word and Praise podcast. Normally, I have an artist on with me, and today I don't have a music artist on with me, but I do have someone very special who came to the Hampton Roads area to speak at Sunrise Music Festival. Unfortunately, and like we were speaking with Jeremy Rosado, that was canceled this year because Mother Nature had other ideas and God had different plans, but that's okay. We trust in God and we believe in Him. My name is Aaron, and I'm joined in the studio today by our good friend Kimberly from the Word and Praise and from our parent company here. She is an account executive at our stations, and we really appreciate her. She was on with me during Days of Giving. Thank you so much for being here, Kimberly. And then we are joined by Christina Milford, and she is from the Pregnancy Resource Center of Jamaica. And that is not Jamaica, New York. That is the country of Jamaica in the Caribbean. Thank you so much for joining us, Christina. I think this is a really big deal we need to talk about. And we want to bring that awareness of what it is that you guys go through in Jamaica when you deal with, pregnancy, and then the resources for mothers who are going through that, and what it is that you offer and how it is that we here at home can help you. So welcome.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Aaron, and your team for having me. And
thank you so much
for the introductions.
Yes. This is such a big topic for us here in the United States, and I think we very often do not think of the global environment that this issue is having such an impact on and people's lives. So what I wanted to ask you first is, can you give us an understanding so that we do increase the awareness of what the environment is concerning this topic for the people being affected in Jamaica?
Where do I begin? The topic is abortion.
Yes, yes.
Well, to begin with, I knew very little about it, except that I needed one when I was 18, pregnant through rape, messing up all the plans I had, and I thought that was the thing to do. I was advised against it by the doctor who I went to check on me. Since then, I've had the privilege of meeting people who stand for life.
Yes.
And I've also had a dream concerning that same doctor who told me not to do this because I could either terminate my own life or never be able to have another child. My child turns out to be a wonderful human being, a wonderful father. He's an engineer extraordinaire. I mean, he's awesome. And so there's a lie that is perpetrated that children born through rape are going to be criminals and they're horrible. It's a lie. It's a total lie.
Right.
My child is wonderful. Fast forwarding many years later, now I'm ushered into this ministry through a dream. Went to bed, woke up 1st of March 1997. That ages me, places my age. And in that dream, I was trying to convince a young professional not to abort her baby because, I gave her all the reason about my son and he's great. But I stepped into a large room, a church hall actually, and she was there in the birthing position. A man was doing the abortion right there, and I cried out. I was so angry. I cried out like the child being aborted. Oh God, couldn't you give me a chance to live? Couldn't you let me fulfill my purpose? And after I shouted that, I woke up and I said, God, what kind of dream is this? Coming from a conference, that is the end of a conference. And he spoke to me. He said the year before, 1996, there were 900 plus murders in our country, and all of us were lamenting. He said, nobody speaks of the untold numbers of my children slaughtered in the womb daily. So I said, what are you telling me that for? I did not. I came pretty close, but he didn't answer me anything further.
Right. At that time. But
later that day, during a gathering of about 60 of us were there, and everybody was sharing, and I decided to share my dream. If you dropped a pin, the place was cold silent. And the man was there from Southampton, England, Peter Butt. And he said, Christina, a woman in my church had a similar passion, and she came to the United States and did some research. US is great. And from that, she came back to England and started a center for women with a crisis pregnancy. He said over a 6-year period, over 6,000 babies' lives had been saved. Maybe the Lord was calling me to such a ministry.
Right.
I was an engineer, setting up business offices, running kids. I mean, I knew nothing about that. I just said thank you, and I left it at that. But that was conception. It took place.
His plan.
His plan.
He had another plan. Yes. And since then, it seems to have really taken off in many different areas. Can you share some things with us about that you've seen?
Well, let me say, I couldn't escape it. After a young woman in my company, in my office, told me that the life of her baby was saved because I spoke. I said, what? What did I say? She said, I don't remember, but I know this baby is coming with a purpose and I have no right to kill it. So I decided that if I didn't even know I was talking and the baby's life was saved, then I need to begin to talk more intentionally.
Yes.
So the thing was boiling inside, was gathering momentum. Moreover, when I got that vision was right after I told the Lord I was ready to do what He wanted me to do. So, but I told Him I'd like redundancy from my job of 20 odd years first. I needed some money, right?
Right.
So when that happened in 2000, and a lot happened between that time, from the time of the vision to the time of the manifestation, a lot happened. When redundancy came in December 2000, I said, okay, Lord, I'm ready, but I don't know anything about starting a center. I don't know anything about doing this work, but He has brought me a good journey.
Yes, what an amazing testimony, personal testimony in how He's working, how He worked in your life and then used you to speak into the lives of these other women. So when it first started, I mean, an amazing story of how He will absolutely get all of the glory, because this was not something you were planning at all. So what then happened to get this started and really moving? Because I want to have an understanding of what you need now, but where it's come up to this point.
It was a slow start. It started with personal sacrifice. So redundancy came. I had the funds. I didn't know what to do. I wrote the vision out because that's what I was instructed. Write the vision, make it clear. You know, the Lord took me to England in 2000. I met the woman who started that center and got some heads up. But one of the things that we're told to do is, if you had all the money in the world to do what was in your heart, what would that be? And I had to write the vision. So I wrote the vision, and when I had to, after getting some training, Bible school training, etc., I came back to my local church, and because I figured it's a church thing, right? But nobody took me on.
Right.
So I started volunteering. My first volunteer position was in a school for 16 and over who didn't quite make it through high school, or they were not market ready. You know, they may have not qualified. So we had training for them, skills training, and I had started the course in counseling because, so now I'm not going to be an engineer anymore. I'm going to do counseling. I need to get training. So I started a degree course in counseling, and I began to counsel girls and guys who were there. And the first client was a girl who was post-abortive. That means she had had an abortion. She was 18. Other girls were talking about their babies, and she couldn't talk about hers because she had had 2 abortions. Carried her through healing, just, the releasing of the guilt, etc. Women really need comfort. Women need to know, because she didn't know that these were babies until the reality is now striking, So that's the beginnings. And over time, we had help from Life International out of Michigan, because I'd connected to them over that period of time, reaching out. It's really a short but a long journey. And they told me in 2006, they called me to say, hey, we have a center in the U.S. here that wants to help a center in Jamaica.
Wonderful.
Are you still doing this? I said, yes, because it was in my heart. I was doing it. And so I had to prove to them that it was needed in Jamaica. And so the person, the international partner from Life International, and Sharon Moore Brewer from First Care Families Resources joined us in Jamaica on the 8th of August to have us present to them this need. We did a big thing. We did a breakfast.
Yes, wonderful.
And I gave everybody information about what we were going to do, and we did the presentations. And the last person I had share, I knew she was a friend and she had an abortion, or so I thought. No, she had several. So she explained what happened, and she was a woman, like, I think probably in her early 40s. And she explained that, when at 17, nobody talked to them about sex, so they got involved sexually. When there was pregnancy, she just did what she had to do because her parents were leaders in the church. So it's in the church, a lot is happening.
I want to talk to you about that.
Yes. So she said when it got to abortion number 5, I was in shock.
Oh my.
She said at this point in time, I think she said she had a rope. She was going to take her life. And she heard God say, why don't you try the God of your parents?
Oh.
She said she fell to her knees and just, you know that story.
Yes.
And she has one living child, a beautiful young, yes.
Redemption.
Yes,
that
redemption.
Like
and she was in
redemption.
tears, but she said this is not from pain. This is just that God's mercy has
Yes,
reached out to her
of
that
his
now she can
goodness.
talk about it openly.
Yes.
Yeah, that this happened to me. But then it made us realize that but this has been happening a long time, you know?
Right.
Yes, it has been happening. And God is interested. He cares about these unborn babies that He has sent with purpose.
Absolutely, with purpose. And
Yes.
I something that really struck me when you were talking is that women need to know.
They need to know.
There's so much misinformation,
Yes, they need to
and not just a lack of information, but I know that we often see or we can comment on data that is shared on a lot of these clinics and the way things are handled there when a girl enters. That's one of the things that here, the local crisis pregnancy centers, they want to make sure a woman has an ultrasound. I heard a doctor on the radio the other day, and he said, number one, they need to know how far along they are. They need to know if this pregnancy is in the uterus. It could be very dangerous if it's not. Now, his topic was much more on women who try to have abortions through the abortion pill. So that's another whole topic that's going on right now that's so dangerous for women. But the information they need, the accurate information. When you first walked in, you were talking about the heartbeat.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people don't understand. They hear the lie that this, first of all, if they're not believing, this was a life created by God in His image with a purpose, like you so beautifully said. But when you think about the developmental stages of this human life, they don't have the accurate information on that. And it seems like that information is so aggressively tried to be suppressed by the enemy. We know that is trying to take these lives that God is creating. So can you share with us a little bit about how you do educate the women? And I do definitely want to incorporate, because that's the basis of all this that we're saying is our Heavenly Father and Him as Creator. Can you incorporate, like you said, God spoke to her and said, try the God of your parents. And do you see opportunities for a role for this in churches and, like you mentioned, in schools, where this awareness definitely needs to be? That's a lot of questions. I'm sorry, but you've brought so many wonderful things to my mind that we need to know.
Yes, in beginning the ministry, we had to reach out a lot because we recognize that the root of it is in a lot of sexual behaviors.
Right.
It never used to be that it was an accepted thing that children were sexually active. As a matter of fact, the legal age for consent in Jamaica is 16, but children are being sexualized very early, sometimes in their families, sometimes being sold by persons who just want to gain money. It's crazy. And so when there's a pregnancy, a girl comes in and she's terrified, or whoever brings her in wants an abortion because they don't want their activities revealed. But in center, we have to be very empathetic, understanding. There's no way of saving a baby without saving the mother.
Right.
That's part of why we have a home.
Right.
Sometimes there's no place. Sometimes there's fear of the community and what they'll say about them, and just these things drive them into desiring an abortion, not knowing what an abortion is. And so we have created a safe environment in center. We do not do the normal 45 minutes to an hour of counseling with a woman. We just sit with her and build a relationship and find out where she's at. Yes, and cause her to know how valuable she is, if she needs a cup of tea, whatever it takes. We sit with her until the fear that is driving her is subsided. We are actually operating on the ethics of the profession. So we cannot tell her what to do.
Right.
We cannot give her information she doesn't want. So we have to ask her. And as a matter of fact, I'll go to the one that came to me several years ago, just before closing time. And she said, I don't want to hear about any baby. I don't want to hear anything about it. I have 2 children already. I can't manage. I don't want this. I took 2 pills and whatever, and it's not working. So she wanted the real thing because the pharmacist had sent her to us. And I spoke to her, but I heard a religious underpinning. And our people tend to be quite religious, even if they're not Christians.
Right.
So I asked her, I said, can we read a scripture together? And she said, yes. And as we began to read, she said, but miss, and I tell you in English, she told me, I took 2 pills already, and my tummy's hurting me. I said, we're not a medical facility, so the most I can advise you is that we take you to the doctor and you tell them what happened and they will help you. Well, fast forwarding, I took her to the hospital. Fast forwarding, she called me 3 days later and she said, miss, it's fortunate, I use English, it's fortunate that I went to the hospital when I did, because when they stick my finger, no blood came out. I said, what do you mean? She said, miss, I'm a sickle cell anemia patient. This girl would have died, no doubt about it. Because these pills bursted.
Right.
She said, they put me on IV fluid immediately. I can tell you, 14 days later, she was on IV fluid. The abortion did not take place, but I didn't know.
Right.
Because months later, I found her number again trying to get in touch, and her husband said, oh, she's been trying to get it since Monday. It was a Thursday, I don't forget. I said, what happened? She had a C-section. I went in, she had a beautiful 8.5-pound baby girl. So I said, can I have her then? No. Because now the treasure is in hand.
Yes, the treasure.
And she's been saved. So part of saving the lives of the unborn is also saving the mother from the trauma.
Absolutely.
Because I've had women who've wanted to terminate their lives after an abortion.
And I feel like that's one thing that's very, it's just lacking, is the thinking through it. Like, you spend the time, you listen, you show the care, the interest, the concern, thinking about down the road, not just making a decision in a moment in time and then not thinking about what the future holds for that. So can you tell us now, where you are with the needs in Jamaica and the wonderful things that you're doing there?
Okay. Well, a lot has been happening and a lot has been on hold. We started a ministry, for example. Annually, we'd have, we call it Daughters by Design, where we empower young girls with information about themselves. We recognize nobody's telling these girls that they can say no to sexual activity. Nobody's telling them about how valuable they are, that they're here with purpose. So we designed something. It was a leadership development program, and we haven't had anything this week, but every year we have had something that not a lot of girls have come to, but we'll have upwards of 30 girls at a time, and they leave knowing that they can say no to sex. They have strategies that they can use to overcome the maladies that are there, and they have other empowerment to know that they have other value, not just their bodies. So that's just one aspect. Then in center we have baby stuff. We had a Earn While You Learn program that we got straight out of the United States. One of our partners in Avery Pregnancy Center, they brought that to us, and so we have little baby stuff, baby clothing and things for babies, and then the girls would come in and we educated them concerning what's happening in the womb, just things. And because we were doing it as a team thing too, they were able to have relationships that empower them. And so they get baby box and they purchase from our little baby school, baby store, with those baby box. Box, of course, is another US language, but we still and then we found we needed a home. The need for the home was emphasized when Shared Hope International, again out of the US. The US has featured a lot in what we're doing.
Wonderful.
Here's my friend doing the same thing. I think the president, Linda Smith, was mandated to research human trafficking, and she chose Jamaica as one place to research it, and she found it was thriving. And that our little girls, in 2 weeks, for example, they gave the information. In 2 weeks, they were offered 30 girls between the ages of 13 and 14 hotel rooms, And so one girl they uncovered, the video is actually on YouTube. If you look at Sex Trafficking Jamaica Life International, that video is there. You see a young 13-year-old being sold in a hotel room by a taxi operator who posed as her uncle. It was not her uncle.
And I would encourage people to watch those, to look that up, to get information. It is there.
It is there. It is there. It is there. And I mean, when they asked him if her mother gets some of the money that she's getting, he said, no, man, she trusts me. She said, he said, like her, I could get her out of her house anytime I wanted. So I said to myself, if I have a 13-year-old that a grown man can get out of my house, something is wrong there. What's wrong?
Right.
Has a sale already taken place? The transaction has already taken place, so that she can go, but she doesn't know that her daughter might never return. So anyway, so that's happening. So we have our girls and we empower them to understand that life is more than that. Actually, one of the first girls I served through the state. They brought her to me as a sting operation. She had just turned 13 and she was 9 months pregnant. So she was pregnant at 12. Later on, she was over 18, she shared her story. And I was shocked because I didn't know the details. You know, you don't probe too much because there's so much pain. We did take and get her a psychologist, and after 4 visits, she would talk no more. I think she hit a spot that she would not go. But at 18, she expressed that when she was 12 years old, her mother would leave her 2 to 3 weeks at a time with her younger siblings. And when her mother left, the man next door would come over and a trade would take place. She'd use the money to buy food for the siblings and the other family members. And when her mother came home, she'd go to the man and the man would give her more money. And I'm saying, oh my God, I had no idea she had experienced so much trauma. The fact is, our girls can overcome.
Yes.
We are so resilient with help. We need the help of psychologists. So if we can get volunteer psychologists.
Oh, so that's one way.
Oh, yes.
Right, that's one way.
That's one of the most expensive ventures that we have.
Right. And we definitely want to know some of those ways that we can be a benefit there for you.
Oh, yes. So, and at the moment, we have more children who are children of those we've cared for over the years. Because when children have children, they can't manage them. Right. And we build relationships, so it's hard to push them into state care.
Oh, yes.
So they become more babies.
Yes.
And they're precious. They're really beautiful. So we have a family atmosphere. And I mean, they can't wait. When I get to them, I have to stand still because they're coming. So we care for them. We send them to school. We do holistic care.
Yes.
I have a few numbers here over what one of your programs has done as far as achievements, and just to give the listeners kind of an idea of what's already taken place, in addition to what you guys continue to do and are hoping to continue to do. You have already accommodated over 300 girls with your program. At least 90 mothers referred to and attended your Women's Center for Formal Education. 200 of girls assisted with job readiness, independent living, and transitioned mainly into the hospitality industry, which I'm sure is a major industry in Jamaica.
It's a major industry.
As I know, many, we have a cruise port here in the Norfolk area, so a lot of people go on cruises from our area to Jamaica and other countries there in the Caribbean. But you've also developed a business plan for fundraising activities and have a contract to make blouses for schools.
Yes.
And a wide, you've been talking about this network of partnerships that you have across the water here in the United States and internationally. And that's just a little bit. I think it's just a taste of what you guys have already done. It also, Kimberly's talking about, what are the greatest needs. Obviously, psychologists, this is unimaginable trauma. It's trauma that happens across the world. And I don't think there's any country, there's any group of people that hasn't been touched by this type of trauma. And we think that it's unimaginable. But here it is, Jamaica is not far from the United States at all. And it's an ongoing issue, but you guys have through your just having a dream, a call to action, that push from the Spirit to start what you've done and to continue to build that up. You guys are also looking towards the future. You want to expand your programs, is that right?
Yes.
And you're also looking at purchasing another building. I know there's also a need there. Maybe we're not skilled psychologists that can't donate our time or contract with, but there's always a need. There's always something, especially when you have these ministries that are helping people on the ground. There's going to be a list, I'm sure that's 4, 5, 10 pages long. And it's typical. It's what you're going to find. But you guys are looking for a house specifically near your current location.
Right. The thought came when we were recognized that we're a registered company with the Ministry of Education, but there's another arm of the ministry that has to be licensed with those who deal with the children, Child Protection and Family Services Agency. And just when we were ready for licensing, we understood that they will not license us if we have adults on premises that are not caregivers. No, adult is anybody over 18.
Right.
And many of those we serve are also over 18, although they're over age by the standards. Some of them are like children with children. And so we said, okay, Lord, we need another house then. So I asked him to give me the house next door because I didn't even know it was for sale. So my thought was, I'd lease it and then we see how we can go about getting money to buy it.
Right.
But when I called the person in charge, she said, no, we're selling. I said, okay, we're buying.
Right. Good answer.
So it's in our heart. We have not been able to make an offer because we didn't have the deposits. I'm still believing God for what He will do. And if not, that's something else.
How far are you from the deposit? What is the deposit?
They wanted 20%, and the price it was going for was $433,000 US.
Right.
It's a big property. It's a 9-bedroom, house on nearly 1 acre of land in one of the best areas in Montego Bay. The Lord gifted our house in one of the best areas.
I've seen pictures of the house in question, and it is something that someone from America would have bought a house in Jamaica and built it. It's that type of. It's beautiful,
right?
Absolutely.
Well, it was built by returning
home.
residents, so
right.
They've no passed on,
right?
But we wait on God.
So it's still available.
There was an offer made for it. I don't know if it's already sold, but I was really encouraged when one of my friends in the ministry said, "You know what? I paid down on a property just before COVID, and they sent me back my money." So. Even though there's an offer there, who knows?
Yes, I'm a realtor, actually.
Oh,
yes,
really?
and you never know. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So I would definitely keep praying about that.
Yes.
We know how good He is, and He's shown Himself so faithful through all of this. Like Aaron said, it's so amazing. I can just see you so filled with His Spirit and being such a faithful servant in what He is calling you to do and touching the lives of these girls and their babies. And this, can you tell? Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the message that they all need. You mentioned their value to really understand that. And as far as the practical services that you offer, I see they stay. Yeah. They're in the house.
Yes.
For
a lovely residential facility. Actually, the one that we're currently in, it's 4 levels, strata, and the children share rooms, so we can have 4 girls to a room, and they're really, really beautiful, the situation, because the heart of Shared Hope International, who has continued to support us, I failed to mention that over the years we presented with a proposal and they see how they can assist us with our budget.
Yes.
And so one of the things that Linda said that has stayed with me, she said, I'd like you to we had a small 2-bedroom place at the time that wasn't really nice. She said, I'm going to help you fix this place up nice, so when a girl comes in, she doesn't want to run back out.
Right. She wants to stay there.
So we've really worked at that and tried to make it happen even now.
So if someone is listening,
yes, what
can they do? What can they very easily or simply do to help you with a lot of what you need
Kat,
there?
You want to jump in there, Kat?
Sure.
We have Kathrine Weir who's joining us as well.
Hello, listeners. So I do fundraising and project management for Christina. I've been to Jamaica many, many times over the last few years and 10 years. But specifically, obviously, monetarily, any kind of donations. My church is Freedom Fellowship in Virginia Beach, and you can donate directly to their website. There's a missions, and it says Jamaica on it.
So can you give us that website?
Yeah, it's comegetfree.org.
Comegetfree.org.
Correct.
Okay.
We also, you guys were talking about counseling services, and we really are desperate for those right now. And specifically, EMDR trained counselors, and that I've just heard such wonderful things for trauma. And then also mission-minded people, you know. I was about to bring a group of missionaries, or a church group, I should say, to the home right before COVID, and then it's just never gotten back on track. But we have work that can be done around the house. We can love the babies and the children always. So that's something that I want to look into in 2024, putting back together and bringing laymen over there.
So you are going to plan a missions trip there for 2024?
That is correct, yes.
Wonderful. Would that be early in the year, or do you know when?
I think the best time is summerish, because maybe not for the heat.
Yeah, I was
climate-wise, yes.
But for like teenagers, I've brought, my daughter's been with her friends, multiple different friends, and they're always like, wow, you know, it's such an eye-opener. And then actually my daughter and one of her friends went to the Daughters by Design, Christina mentioned, and they both were like, wow, I learned so much. They learned more than they've learned, and they're both going to be 18, you know what I mean? So there's a lot to learn over there from that culture. So there's that. And
now, if they're interested in that, would they go to the same website?
No, they could email me or call me, either way.
Let's give your contact information.
We'll have that
will they?
posted
Okay,
to the information on our Spotify description.
Okay.
So if you're not listening to this on Spotify, go to Spotify, podcast for Spotify, and find the Word and Praise podcast. And in our description, we'll link all that contact information.
Awesome.
Great.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
And you were going to say something else too, though.
And we need a van. We, much to my dismay, when we get in the van with all the kids and the babies, I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? There's no car seats. There's like 15 people packed into a 8 or 9 seater. So we need a new van. The need is great, honestly. It's a third world country. And but it's just such a beautiful country with beautiful people and beautiful little souls that need to be saved. And I personally have saved one myself. A 17-year-old last summer had come to the ministry, and she was abortion-minded. She had a boyfriend, and they were friends of Christina's, I believe. Anyway, and long story short, I shared my personal story. I was conceived in rape, and my birth parents tried to abort me, and I obviously wasn't aborted. And I had taken the kids out, as I do every time I go to ice cream. Nobody else, just me, the kids, and this young lady. I invited her, and we're sitting there. I'm like, look, you wouldn't be enjoying this ice cream, and I could see it click in her, you know. And so it's about the word of our testimony, and that's how people, and especially young, minds that are sponges still, that's how we can reach them by we got to talk about this stuff, and Christina said earlier, when a woman is raped, it's such a stigma attached to it. It's not true. I'm awesome,
absolutely. And you do have to share those stories. You remind me, I was a nanny for a short time for a little girl that had mild Down syndrome. And when her mom found out she was pregnant, the doctor recommended that she terminate that pregnancy. And when I was volunteering at the local pregnancy resource center, she told me, she said, Kimberly, if you ever have someone come in there, if you have a girl come in there and the doctor has told her that, she said, please let me talk to her. I said, I absolutely will. Because like I said, I was Shannon's little nanny, and she was, I just can't tell you what a blessing, joy, smiling, warming your heart, loving. unbelievable what she brought to that family. And same thing.
Yes.
They would not have had all of that enjoyment had she not said no. And because of her faith, she was not going to do that. So grateful she did not. And the things the doctor had projected that might have happened, and not at all.
Okay.
Very high functioning. But even if she had not been, what a beautiful blessing.
Well, every child is a blessing.
Yes.
We're all purposed, and I struggled with understanding that for many years. But I know that not only do we all have a purpose, we're a miracle. And there's a statistical fact that says every human being walking on the earth is a walking miracle, because it takes it's a 1 in 14 trillion chances of being born. Trillion. That's like a lot of zeros, all right?
Yes.
You can get struck by lightning 10 times over before you reach that number.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't understand, and we're not meant to understand everything. Right? But we're meant to trust.
Exactly.
And so if there's a baby in your belly, trust that God has put it and ordained it there, and that baby has a purpose.
Yes.
Yes. And adoption is a great option.
We talk about the options, that's right. And when you think about in the Bible, when he says, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. So that is so important.
And adoption, too, getting onto that point, I mean, that's the route that your life ended up taking.
That's correct.
Kat,
yes.
Was, your mother, you are the product of a rape birth, but then you were... can you share your story rather than me say it? How about you? Share that?
Sure. Yeah, I love sharing my story because I believe it's part of my purpose. But I am 55, and when I was 35, I was able to open up my birth records. And I found my birth mother, met her. She had the option to say yes or no, and she said yes, and which is really surprising now, but I'm so thankful she did. I don't believe she's a believer. But I learned I'd been conceived in rape. And what had happened is she had gone to out on a one night date with somebody. Like a
first date.
Blind date. That was what I was trying to get. Blind. It wasn't coming, but it was a blind date, and it was to a wedding, which is funny. But anyway, alcohol was involved, and I struggled with alcohol for many years. But he pushed himself on her, basically. She tells me the whole story in a letter. But anyway, and that was really hard for me to grasp onto. Like, you dream as an adopted child, like, oh, I wonder, I'm sure they're royalty in, England, or, you just have these fantasies. And so that wasn't the case. And then, fast forwarding, I did a DNA test in 2018. A lot of stuff happened in 2018 because I met her in 2018, but God was like saying, here, my daughter, this is your purpose. But I met my birth father through this DNA test, through an uncle, and I've been introduced to that side of the family that knew nothing about me, mind you. But anyway, that's pretty much my story. There's a lot more to it, but in a nutshell, and at the end of the day, what I've learned out of this is that I was 100% purposed. There's no doubt in my mind, and God just keeps uncovering different little nuggets for me to be like, yes, and that the little girl, and I can't remember her name, in Jamaica, and she had a little girl. Like, how cool is that? I know that.
Wonderful.
And if I hadn't shared and I hadn't used my voice to get it out, then that might not have happened. We don't know that, but I do know that Scripture tells us is that that it's with our life and death is in our tongue.
Yes.
And so we need to speak life. We need to be sharing what God has done in our lives.
Absolutely.
Not just back then, but yesterday.
Absolutely.
And the prophecy of what's coming out of truth. And it's just, and the truth is everybody has a purpose, and I'm a living example of that.
Yes, and telling them the truth of, like you had said, God created them, God loves them. This baby is created by him with a purpose. The enemy tells the lies that are all the opposite.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so he loses in my life, the enemy loses.
Absolutely.
I claim victory.
You have the victory. Yes. Exactly.
I just wanted to drop in that I heard a message years ago, the minister said, he said, 700 years before this guy was born. His name was written in the book. He saved the Jews. The name just slipped my head. But 700 years, he was not a Jew, but his name was written in the book of the Jews that he would deliver the Israelites. And I'm saying, we don't know. Our names are written there. He said so, and it's with purpose.
With purpose.
Yeah.
Purpose.
Yeah, it's like our lives are a vapor, right?
Yes.
And so what do we know our purpose is for? You know, some people, I think about the caste system in India, and it really bothers me, and it has, until I understood that, again, we aren't meant to understand everything. We're meant to trust. And God, I believe the caste system are going to be higher than us in heaven. They're going to, and that's forever. Right? And
Eternally.
So here we are, like, maybe we live 90 years. And so, but they're forever going to be with the heavenly hosts.
And that's what I love so much about these programs is they are Christ-centered, they are faith-based. So they will have that eternal mindset, that biblical worldview, that understanding of truth.
Absolutely.
And life and what's most important. And you keep saying the same word over and over. It's such a powerful word. Purpose. Yes. Purpose.
Yeah.
To help them understand that.
Christina, share with them your story of how, we're all up there with Jesus, and he's like, all right, it's your turn, go. Jesus, full story.
I'm not having a memory of what you're talking about there, but I just wanted to let those listening know that in-house and in our office, we do share the gospel to those who will want to hear. And we do know that unless they really connect in a positive way with the Lord, then going back outside there without help will be disastrous.
Right.
And I'm thinking about a young lady who, when she left our home, she had to leave her child because she couldn't take her with her. But she went out, and she said she went to the other side, and it was dark, it was black. She said she if she had not learned what she learned in her home, she would have, she believed she would have died. Because she said she met the enemy, the devil. That was her take on what happened in her life. And it's because of the word that we taught her. I think she said God has not given her the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and sound mind. She was able to break through that darkness, and she said she knows that God is real. She knows that God is real because she has experienced the devil out there. So we need to know that we're living in a world that is very spiritual. As a matter of fact, I dare to say we were spirits. God knew us. We were in Him before He ushered us into time. That's what I had in that little because when I came out of that dream where the Lord showed me that baby's heart beating.
I wanted you to share that. That was
that was just since last week. I had
recently,
that dream.
Recent.
And I woke up crying and saying, like God, I can't escape this. Because in the dream I was waiting in line to fill a prescription, and a man came and took it. Said we were all the way out onto the road, so the line was so long. We were waiting for so long, and then he said he would help me. And then the next thing I'm knowing, he's unfolding, but he's like rolling out the prescription, and inside of it, I'm seeing small limbs, tiny limbs, smaller than my little finger. And they were all moving, and I'm saying, but they were dismembered. And I knew it was an abortion story. Then I saw a tiny heart, like this small piece of a chicken liver, if you've ever seen that. Very small, very delicate, very beautiful. And it was beating, and the person was bringing the hand close to my mouth, and I was now bracing back in my pillow because it's now in-house. And I woke up and I heard the Lord say, many more will die unless you speak. So I said, okay, because in the ministry, so much has happened. There's been so many needs that the focus has been a lot on who we can see at home. Whereas the unborn is kind of nebulous. People I can't see you. It's not somebody yet. Yes, the truth is, from the moment of conception, every instruction as to what I'd be now was there. So you might not have seen me. Personhood has been removed from the unborn, but the unborn is a person.
Absolutely.
My daughter-in-law waited 7 years after marriage. Well, not waited. She didn't get pregnant until 7 years after marriage. when she nurtured the thought when she was missing the period, and then when she called us, she said, we are pregnant. That's my son and her. She knew she had a human child there.
Yes.
She knew that wasn't a horse or elephant or monkey or anything else. She knew that was a child that belonged to herself and her husband.
Yes.
So what people need to understand in the crisis of an abortion, when I don't want the baby, it's nothing. It's blood. Call it anything. I don't want to see a baby because then I'm going to feel convicted. However, whether you feel it or not, many women, and sometimes I got the story of a girl who, after her 4th abortion, she now meets a man who cares for her. And she's pregnant by him and she's nurturing this baby. And suddenly it dawns on him that the others were babies too. I killed my babies.
Right.
And that reality hits home, and there's a lot of pain. Now, the husband who didn't know anything about what happened, his life is in devastation too, because his wife is crying. And anyway, so these are some of the things that are after effects. So immediately after an abortion, many times a girl will think, it's like I'm rid of a problem, but no, I've seen the pain.
Right.
I've faced the women who, I remember this young woman said, Miss, before the abortion, I could count on my finger all the reasons I needed to have an abortion. Now I'm wondering, why? Why did I do it? Do you think if I have a baby, the pain will go away? And I started to feel the pain. I said, Lord, please, I can't deal with the pain because the heartache was real. And I had to tell her, I don't know. Because sometimes you're only gifted one baby.
Right.
You know, and so she went into
Gifted.
sexual dysfunction. She's pursuing her mate, and when there's no pregnancy, she's crying. So the man is in distress. I'm not God, I can't make babies.
Right.
Oh, there's pain. There's
Yes.
pain.
Yes.
And there's women. One mother came to me after I didn't get to counsel with her well, and she came to my office to see me, and she was in distress. Miss, why should I live when my baby's dead? Because now she realizes it's her baby. But this is just like within the same week after the abortion. You can't take it back. Abortion is a decision you cannot take back. When that baby's gone, it's gone.
Right.
But you know what? I'm going to give you some hope. We will see them again.
Right.
Those in Christ will see their child again, because the Lord received them back.
Right.
They don't disappear into nothingness. And so you have the abortion recovery ministry where women are able to grieve their children, women and men. Please, I apologize for leaving men out, because men suffer silently. Who am I going to tell that? You know, one young man sitting in my office and looked at me. His girlfriend had been pregnant with twins, and he said to me, and he was Christian. The girl was a Christian. They just made a bad decision to have sex, and then a worse decision to kill the babies.
Right.
He said, what kind of man can pay to kill his children? Oh my God, I felt that, and I've never forgotten it. You know, so many men, they don't talk about it, but they hurt for the men, for their babies, whether they agree to the abortion or not. Because many times they do not agree.
Right.
I was sitting beside a man, we were talking about a subject, and he said his daughter should be 10 years old now. He begged the woman not to do it, not to abort the baby, and she did. Now she has other children. And he looks at her, where her children, and said, my child should have been there too. But that child is dead, you know?
Yes.
There's a lot of grief, a lot of pain that we can do.
And this is where, you know, the tagline, if you will, because the right word for me is not coming. It's been a long week for me, so I apologize. But it is committed to confidential, compassionate care and counsel. I think the first thing right there is committed to confidential. You know, I know so many people. I can only imagine the fear that goes into this. That someone else is going to be told, whether it's their parents, their loved ones. If it's a guy, their girlfriend. If it's a girl, of course, their family, their parents, or their partner, whoever that is. But compassionate care and counsel comes right after that. And the love that goes into that, to let them know that, you know, whatever decision's been made, or if it's something where they're going through it and they don't have resources to to carry that out completely. That's where you guys come in and assist. It's so multifaceted in what you guys do on both ends, caring for those who have had abortions and caring for those who are currently pregnant and coming to you that don't have access.
I don't know what to do.
Oh man.
It's really, I look at it quite a bit, but like I said, it's the Lord's doing. It's marvelous in my eyes. And before beginning the ministry, He brought me to a place where there are many prophetic words. And one of them, God said, watch me work. Watch me work. Watch me work 3 times. And I've been just watching Him work. I'm just a vessel, a container, and He does the work.
Right.
And I can't take any of the glory.
Right.
It belongs to Him. When I hold a baby that I know if I wasn't there, this baby would not be, it's marvelous, but I know it's yours, Lord.
Right.
Because He knew the reason. I have a little boy at home. Oh my gosh. He's one of my heartbeats. And he's now just about 5.5. But his mother was just a 15-year-old. Her father, her mother's mother, the mother's mother is dead. And the father couldn't keep her because he's with a woman who didn't accommodate her. And she had taken pills to have the abortion. They didn't work. Thank God. So when she came to my office, he brought her clothes and just kind of threw her in there. We said, well, we had no choice. We checked with the state and they didn't want to have anything to do. We took her in. That boy is a treasure.
Yes.
Everybody who meets him, his first word was hallelujah.
Wow, how appropriate. How
he was
wonderful.
Raised in my house, and I guess I'm always saying hallelujah. But gorgeous, children are the heritage of the Lord our God.
Yes.
And if we train them, and sometimes there are difficulties. In all cases, you have difficulties. But God gives us what we need to do to overcome.
The grace.
Because it's by His Spirit.
Yes.
Everything works out as it should.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, Christina, Kat, Kimberly, thank you guys so much for joining us and for sharing what it is that you're doing with the Pregnancy Resource Center of Jamaica. Of course, we're going to have links in our description so that you can go if you can help them or support them. Maybe you're a psychologist that can offer assistance, please, or someone. Please look into that. Of course, always help needed, and not even on the professional level. If you're a lay person, like Kat said, they need help. If you're someone that can just offer financial assistance, there are several projects that are high on the list and need that funding. So if you can give in any way, we will have all those links there. Christina, again, God bless you for what you're doing and your center. And thank you so much for taking the time and spending it with us here.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Word and Praise podcast. My name is Aaron. Until next time, guys, goodbye.